Hi, y'all. Welcome. Sorry I can't be here today with you guys in person or on Zoom, but I'm going to record this short lecture and kind of go over the homework and the test, the little quiz that you guys have to do by tonight. So I think it should be short, probably 30 minutes lecture. So make sure you guys watch this video so that you know what we're supposed to do in class together. So first off, I'm going to share my screen. So today is all about food styling. Something that I want to kind of remind you all about food styling is that it is a very intricate and specific section of styling. And in this class, we touch on it, right? We just do a very general overview of what it is, some opportunities, but we don't go into the details of like the chemistry or how to bake something or how to, construct a plate, because that is something that is on a different level. It requires way more skill. So we're essentially just going to talk about what it is. We're going to try it out in your photo shoot this week, and just kind of see how it works out and see if you like it. So this week is really a no pressure week. Essentially, obviously, I want you guys to take everything you've learned so far and kind of apply it to your photo shoot. But really, if your dish comes out to where it doesn't look the way you wanted it to look, or you had these high expectations and you just couldn't get it to that place, it's okay, because food styling is essentially a science. You have to be able to cook, and you also have to be able to style, which is two very very intricate and highly skilled things. So we're going to start out by just kind of doing an overview of food styling. So essentially the role of the food stylist, this is something that you'll need to know for your midterm. What is the role of food stylist? What does a food stylist do? They have a lot of different jobs. It's very complex. So essentially we're responsible for creating the dish or the product. And then on top of that, we are responsible for making it look good on camera, right? And also making sure that it sustains a certain amount of time, which is probably one of the most difficult parts. So let's start with the beginning, the prep period of a food styling photo shoot. So we should kind of remember that word now, prep. The prep is essentially figuring out the concept, right? Mood boarding the ideas, figuring out what we're going to do or how we're going to relay the message that is coming down from the client. We're also sourcing. That's another really important term. We're sourcing everything we need. So just like we would for fashion styling, where we're sourcing clothes and outfits and shoes and accessories, for food styling, we're also sourcing the ingredients, right? Sometimes they're unusual ingredients. Sometimes they're ingredients that are not available in that season, right? So we have to go to our resources and get something that is not readily available in stores. So we're essentially making lists of where we're getting things, how we're going to get them, and the timing that we need them in. And then we're arranging the shopping, which is kind of a job in itself, essentially, because if we think about the timeline for a food styling job, say it's Monday today, and our job is on Friday, right? We're shooting the dish on Friday. Monday typically would be a concepting, mood boarding, sourcing, listing, arranging day, right? You're kind of doing all that prep work. But for a lot of ingredients, you're not able to go out and shop tomorrow and figure out, and go and get these fresh ingredients, because by the time Friday comes along and then that ingredient sits on set all day, it's probably not going to be the freshest, right? So you can start to see how the timelines start to shrink. We also oftentimes in this industry create mock-ups. So we're doing practice runs. Typically we're doing it either the day before, the day before that. So we're almost doing like 2 runs of ingredients. We're doing one run where we're getting everything so that we can actually experiment and see how it actually comes out and do the dish and see what improvements we need to make or how we're going to pivot. And then we're again buying the products again, the ingredients again, so that we're prepared for our shoot day. So just arranging the shopping can take multiple days, and actually executing that. Or doing pre-production of the food. So this is where we're actually, maybe we can get some things ready. Maybe you're doing a granola baked crusted pie or something. So maybe you're getting the granola pre-done so you don't have to do that on set. Or I don't know, maybe you're preparing all the props, right? So you're getting this pre-production done, which is essentially doing everything that you can that doesn't need to be done right in the moment. And this also means that we are doing our mock-ups. So we're doing our test runs of our dishes and making sure that things look the way that they should look, and making any changes to either recipes or the way that you're going to execute them. This also gives you a great kind of a timeline or an idea of how long things are going to take on set. So essentially the stylist, the food stylist on set really sets the tone for the shoot, because people are waiting on you to complete the dish or to make it ready to be in front of the camera. So if you don't do a mock-up and you're doing a roast chicken like in this picture, and you need to get that crispy skin, right? That's something that the client is calling out for. And you don't realize that it's going to take you 2.5 hours, so you didn't do that mock-up, that can be a really big problem in your process, right? Because maybe you're promising the producer, okay, food will be ready to go in an hour and a half. And at the hour and a half, the skin on your chicken, whole chicken, is still not looking crispy. You need more time in the oven, right? So that's essentially kind of cutting into the other shots that you need to do that day. And that can really slow a team down. So really important to do a mock-up in the order of shots that you're doing it on set, so you can kind of see the timing, where you can cut corners, what things you can pre-prep, what things you can do prior to getting on set, so that everything kind of stays on a consistent schedule. So that's kind of all the stuff we do prior to getting on set, right? To getting into a studio or whatever. Then when we get to the studio, we're going to have to prepare the food on set. So this seems like, yeah, easy. We start doing what we did the day before in our mock-up. But a lot of times you're in a studio that doesn't have a kitchen or doesn't have the adequate equipment or tools that you need. So a lot of times we're setting up our own kitchens, right? Bringing in equipment so that we can actually execute the job. So, you know, in a perfect world, we'd work in a studio with a beautiful kitchen where we can prepare all the food. Sometimes we have to work out of our own kitchens and bring it directly to set. Sometimes we're creating a mock-up kitchen at set. So it really just depends on the job. But so we're not only preparing the food on set, we're also preparing our workspace, which takes time prior to doing all the shots that you need to get done. And then lastly, after you prepare the food on set and you bake it and or whatever you're doing, and you get that done, you're doing the final inviting presentation of the food under the camera. So this is also another huge aspect of the job, is right, you're actually like, you know, making the food, right, which is a whole job in itself. There's literally people that make food for a living, but now you're getting that plated dish and you're putting it under a camera, you're seeing it through a lens. And now this is when the styling aspect comes into play. So before you're almost like the chef or the baker, and now you're changing hats and you're being a stylist. So now you're essentially styling the environment, you're styling the props, the additional textures or ingredients that are going in the frame. You're looking at the composition, you're working with your photographer together to make sure that you're achieving the image that you want to get. And then you're doing things to the food that maybe makes it become unedible, or you know, making some sort of color pop or a texture come out, right? So you're doing things, styling tricks that need to be executed in the image. Essentially, we typically say taste is of little concern, looks are everything. This rings true for everything but like recipe and food blogging. Obviously, if you're following a recipe because you're creating a cookbook or you are creating a recipe for your followers on a food blog, you do need to follow that recipe, essentially, because the food needs to end up turning out good and tasting good. But then after we've completed the recipe, that's when we go into our styling mode and we add certain things or do certain things to the image so that it looks even more appetizing. So at that point, the taste is of little concern because we know already that it tastes good. We've followed the recipe. If you follow the recipe, it's going to taste amazing. But now we need to maybe add that extra level of it looking good. I don't know about you guys, but anytime like, you know, I make a meal at home or I bake something, you know, I have this vision or idea of what it's going to look like. And then I'll take a picture of my final product and it's like horrible, right? Whether the environment looks off or food looks flat or looks messy or whatever. So that's kind of the other aspect that we have to think about, is that these people wear two hats. They're actually creating delicious food and they understand the chemistry of food and how food reacts to oil and water and time and heat and cold. But we're also understanding the aesthetics of it and paying attention to the details and being able to create a beautiful image. So obviously our goal of a stylist is to create images that appear to be fresh and appetizing. And then it's really important to note that having food stand on set for long periods of time is really both a science and an art. So we think that maybe actually the cooking is the hardest part, or then the styling is the hardest part. Then we have to think about how long food needs to be stable, right? Because a lot of times we're pre-producing things, right? We're working a little bit ahead of schedule, and they will need to be sitting for 4 hours or 5 hours or 10 hours, right? So, that is really a science in the fact that we need to understand how food reacts to certain things in our environment. Problem solving is a key element of this business. Okay, so when we talk about food, it's very unreliable and uncontrollable, right? A lot of things are out of our control when we are exposing it to heat or doing something or putting certain ingredients together. So having the ability to control what food does is really of primary importance. And a lot of times that comes with experience or having the education in food, in the food industry. But we're constantly problem solving. And a couple of videos you guys will watch today will kind of show you that, right? That we're constantly acquiring tools that will help us solve this problem or that problem. We are, doing things to our food that make them look, better than they would in real life. Like this stack of pancakes probably has cardboard in between to make it look upright and make it look, taller than it would be in real life. But in real life, you would never actually eat a stack of pancakes with cardboard in between each pancake, right? So we're constantly creating solutions to the issues that come on set based on what they look like through the camera. So some ideas of some questions that can come up is like, what if something's not the right color or the consistency, right? Maybe you're using the actual sauce that should technically be used on the pancakes, like a blueberry sauce, but what if it's too runny and the consistency doesn't look good on camera? What do we add to the sauce in order for it to look thick and gooey, right? Or maybe the color of the blueberries coming out too purple, the sauce coming out too purple and you want it to look more blue. Is there something we can add to that sauce to make sure that that color translates through the image? Because there's so many what ifs on set, right? Even if you do your mock-up and everything comes out perfect and you've created solutions to the issues that you've had in your mock-up process, there can be a whole nother set of issues because you're completely moving your environments, right? So when you're doing your mock-ups, you're typically working in your home kitchen or in a place that you're used to working with, right? You understand the oven, how hot it gets, how it works, whatever. And then you're transporting all of that and doing it in a new space. So even though you've done your mock-up and you have a good idea of how things are going to go, the new problems can arise and there's a lot of what ifs, right? So maybe the kitchen is or the oven's super temperamental, or maybe the fridge isn't as cold as what you're used to, or maybe you thought they'd have a set of knives but they don't, right? So there's a lot of things that can kind of come up in the midst of doing a food styling project. So because of these what ifs, food stylist kits really are an accumulation of interesting equipment. So that's a video that you're going to watch today on your own time. Is kind of goes through a really famous food stylist kit, and you'll be really surprised to see what she has in there. I mean, the items, she has an abundance of items, first of all, but it's an accumulation. So from job to job, you're going to keep accumulating different things because every job, guaranteed, whether you're experienced or not, you're going to need something you don't have. Right. So then now for the next time, you're going to make sure you have that so that that problem never happens again. So it's really, really fun to kind of dive into people's kits. So from standard cooking equipment to the basics like knives, tweezers, to paintbrushes, scalpels, artist palette knives, cosmetic sprit bottles, different chemicals, different food dyes. There is an abundance of items that you need within food styling. Let's talk about an important aspect to your kits. So your kits by now, if you don't know, and you'll read about this in chapter 11 in your book, because this week you'll read chapter 10 and 11. Your kits are essentially your bag of tools to execute a job, right? So just like a fashion stylist would have a lint roller and maybe a sewing kit and a rack and a steamer, food stylists need their own, essential tools to be able to execute a job. And right, that is your responsibility to have those tools. Just like as a student, you probably need some sort of a laptop or a computer, access to Wi-Fi, maybe a notepad, a pencil to be able to write down things, right? So it is really your responsibility coming into class to having those tools so that you are successful. So every job essentially has a set of tools that they need, some more complicated than others. I will say that a food stylist's tools are lengthy and they have a lot. There's a huge abundance of tools needed for this job. But one of the great things about this job is that essentially you get paid for your client or whoever's hiring you essentially borrowing or renting those tools from you so that they don't have to provide them for you. This also happens in a lot of other different types of styling jobs too, but food stylists for sure. So this is called a kit fee. So these are fees for the materials used, and we call them kit fees in the industry. And this will go on your invoice when you're invoicing for a job. The book says rarely for print you get kit fees, but in my experience within fashion styling, I've always gotten a kit fee in print styling. So it really just depends on the client, I think, rather than the type of project. But essentially you are bringing your kit or your tool bag to set, and your client is renting that tool bag from you, even though you're the only one using it. So instead of them providing all the tools for the job, you are bringing your own tools that you're used to working with and that you like working with and that you know that what you have and what you need, and you're getting compensated for that. So when we think of our kit, stocking supplies in our kit is considered to be a normal part of doing business as a stylist. If you show up to a job without a kit and expect one to be there for you, that's not going to be good, right? You're not going to be able to execute the job. So it's really like you should have your own kit. No one talks about it, but sometimes they will pay you a rental or a fee for bringing your kit. So regardless of the job, you have to have a kit, and then sometimes you get reimbursed for one. Now let's talk about special materials. So let's just say I am doing a job, for a bakery, and I'm going to need, all these ingredients to make cupcakes and cakes and flowers and, platters and all those things. That is not necessarily part of my kit, right? I'm going to get a special budget to buy the specific or special materials that are needed for that specific job, okay? But all the other stuff, the whisk, the mixer, the knives, the measuring cups, the bowls that I need to actually make the cupcakes and the cakes, that should be part of my kit. So all the tools that I need should be part of my kit, where they're not going to give me a budget to buy those things with, right? So if they're basically, when you're working for a client and you're executing a project for them, they should be paying you for the special materials that you need in order to do the job, but the equipment essentially is on you, okay? So let's go back to the kit fee. So you're bringing your equipment, you're bringing your whisks, you're bringing your bowls, you're bringing, all the stuff that you need in order to make the cakes and the cupcakes. Typically we're charging a kit fee, right? We talked about that. And that's typically billed at $50 a day. So it's an incentive for keeping up on your kit and also investing in your kit that you will carry along with you forever in this career. So like when I talk about my fashion styling kit, right? I invested in an industrial grade steamer, okay, that costs $150. That's expensive, right? But imagine if I rent my kit out for 3 days. So if I get a kit fee for 3 days, that's $50 a day. Essentially, I'm getting paid back for that steamer, and I should be able to hold on to that steamer for 10 years, right? So it pays itself back time and time and time again if you're smart with your kit and you actually buy things that you need in order to execute the job. So you'll need to know about kit fees and kind of understand what a kit is and what a kit fee is for your midterm. Let's talk about types of work available. Okay, so plenty of work available in the food styling industry, and that's typically why food stylists only specialize in food. It's very rare that you find a food stylist that also does interiors or also does fashion. You tend to stick within that industry because it's so specialized and it's so intricate and complex. But if you think about any sort of food magazine, okay, that's going to be editorial imagery that goes along with articles or recipes or highlights on a certain cook or designer, okay? If you think about cookbooks, okay, creating recipes, a lot of times the food stylist is involved in creating a recipe with whoever is, the owner of the recipe, and making sure that it actually executes in a beautiful way. So if your favorite chef is putting out a cookbook, they're working alongside a food stylist to make sure that the images of the food that they've created look good in film. Okay. Any sort of packaging. So walk down the aisles of your grocery store. I suggest going down the cereal aisle. You'll see tons of bowls of cereal on a package of on packages of cereal boxes. That has all been touched by a food stylist, right? Whether you're propping up the cereal in the bowl so that the colors are vibrant and you can actually see the cereal and it's not soggy or it's not getting drowned by the milk, right? So that incorporates someone's skill as a stylist to be able to make it look more appetizing in an image. Styling for film and TV. So think about any of your favorite movies or TV shows. If they're ever having a meal together at their home or they're going to a restaurant and eating something, all of that food as well has been touched by a food stylist. It's not just like magically appears there. Someone's either cooking that food and placing it or ordering that food and making sure that it looks, right with the aesthetic of the film or the TV show. So a lot of opportunity there. Interactive media, recipe development. And then lastly, something that has gained a lot of traction within the last 7-ish years is food blogging. I follow a handful of them on Instagram because it's just fun to get inspiration on what to make every night for dinner. But that also, food bloggers kind of have a big task because often they're creating recipes, right? Executing them, cooking them, and then photographing those recipes coming to life. So they need that aspect of being a stylist as well. Okay, some food propping hints. So we tend to say do not over prop. Remember, now we're focusing on a different hero object, right? Maybe it's not a product like skincare or perfume, but our hero object is our food, is our dish, okay? Our centerpiece, our finale of our recipe. That is our hero. We always want to make sure it stays our hero, and we want to avoid from over propping if you can't do it in a way where the food remains your centerpiece or remains your final product, right? Where people are still focused on that. We often use solid or simple pattern backgrounds. Okay, so we think of in terms of contrast and similarity. So a lot of times the easiest way to do a background is by contrasting your food so that the food pops and always is the center or the top of visual hierarchy. But oftentimes the mood of what we want our dish to look like is better in using similar backgrounds so that it's kind of has more of a minimalistic or simple vibe, right? It really depends on the concept or the aesthetic you're going for. And then making sure you have enough of that surface to cover your whole field of view. I've noticed that some of you guys kind of run out of space sometimes and you're having to crop in really tight. So just making sure you're giving yourself enough space in the surface so that you through your camera, you can see that surface throughout the whole image. Experiment with incorporating serving pieces. So, using place settings, napkins, placemats, tablecloth, trying different silverwares, adding a drink, even a candle can convey the right mood. Adding props, so not being scared to work with props, but maybe not over propping, so you're taking away from your hero object, which is your dish. A great place to find props is at thrift stores, and you can usually find them really cheap. Because if you think about like finding a beautiful plate that you want to place, maybe some empanadas on or something like that, you don't need a set of 6, and that's typically what people are looking for. You just need that one beautiful antique plate or that one really interesting fork and knife, right? You don't need a set. So that's why you can really find these things for really, really budget conscious prices, because you're needing 1 or maybe 2 of the item. And then lastly is inspiration. Remember that we can get our inspiration from food magazines, of course, and sometimes fashion magazines, photography magazines, but we also want to make sure that we're exploring other ideas of inspiration for food. So travel, the smells of a certain, location, or the lights in a certain restaurant, or that vibe you get when you're out to dinner at your favorite French restaurant, and then bringing those things to life in your images. So making sure that our inspiration doesn't become flat or one-sided. Okay, so that's the end of the lecture. You'll read chapter 10 and 11 this week. 10 is about prop styling and 11 is about food styling. So make sure that you read those before you start your homework. So let's go over what is due this week and what you need to know. Okay, so we're in, let's see, where are we? Week 4, okay. No, I'm sorry, guys. A second. Go to the right one. Okay. we're in week 4, but that should be the 2nd of August, okay? Okay, so today or by Tuesday, August 2nd, you have 2 things due at the end of the day, okay? So one is the editorial versus commercial quiz, which a lot of you guys have done and gotten perfect scores on. This is a 5-point quiz, a 5-question quiz worth 10 points, and this will be due at 11:59 p.m. Really important to remember, please don't start this quiz at 11:58, okay? Because it'll cut you off at 11:59. So you'll only get 1 minute to answer the 5 questions. Give yourself at least 15 minutes to complete the quiz. I don't even think it'll take you that long, but give yourself at least 15 minutes. So I wouldn't do this any later than like 11:40 or 11:45 p.m. tomorrow night, because it's gonna be late. Okay, so this is due August 2nd at 11:59 p.m. Give yourself enough time to complete it and turn it in. Here are the notes that we just went over. Okay, so you can download those if you'd like. Here's a great resource, Food Styling Facts is a page in your module. These are the 2 videos I'd like you to watch before starting your homework this week. And you should have plenty of time during your class time to watch them. This one's about 16 minutes long, and this is about 10 minutes long. This is a really fun video that kind of goes through a food stylist kit and all the essential tools that you need for styling and food styling. This girl, her name is Rashawn. She's a great food stylist. She's really interactive and fun. She also has a lot of videos, which let me show you guys, from her show. So that's an ad. But anyways, this is the tools video, okay? She also has a lot of videos. She has a show called Food Versus. And this is here, you can kind of see all of these videos. She does one on Arby's, on cocktails. She does on frozen dinner, Starbucks lattes, rotisserie chicken. So I would definitely kind of bop around here and watch a couple of these videos, because she goes into how she makes the item and also how she styles it, which is really helpful. Knowing what tools you'll need to like prop up stuff, or how you make something look a certain color or something like that. So she's a great resource on YouTube. Very easy to watch. Her videos are like 10 minutes long. So definitely do some research here. You have another video here. This is a day at work, a food stylist. So this is about a food stylist. She kind of walks you through a day of work. Really interesting to watch and kind of see her perspective on the job. You also have a bunch of different resources here. I'm going to add these 2 here as well. Just different tips and tricks to help with food photography. And this is 32 food stylist secrets, like why food looks great in advertising. So using mashed potatoes in a milkshake, using soy sauce in a coffee, painting your chicken, how cold food is shot warm, right? There's using glycerin on a glass. We know that water is really hard to work with. So oftentimes we use vegetable glycerin to create that condensation or that dripping water effect, using fake ice cubes. So there's a bunch of different great, little tips and tricks here on these 2 resources, which I will add to your Food Styling Facts page. Okay, you also have some links to some great Pinterest boards, some exciting, just some boards to kind of look at and get inspiration from. So make sure you look at those things first before you start your homework. Really important that you go through the module. Let's go over your first assignment that's due by August 2nd at 11:59 as well. It's called the Food Styling Board and Ideas. So essentially, I want you guys to think about your food styling project, which we'll go over next. And I want you to create a mood board with ideas that you might use for your food styling photo shoot. Okay, this essentially could be just an idea dump. It's a starting place. It doesn't have to be this curated mood board on one idea. It can be a bunch of different ideas like you see here, placed on a board, because maybe there are things you want to try out. Maybe you want to do a cocktail one. Maybe you want to do peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Maybe you want to do a soup, right? So they're just fun, different ideas that you can get inspired by. And then you can work off of this board to create your final mood board for your photo shoot project. So you'll have plenty of time in class to complete this. So you're going to make sure that you post your board. So you're embedding your board. Like here we see Gabriella has embedded her board, right? Beautiful, fun, colorful. And then you're also going to comment on 2 people's posts for full credit. So make sure you work on this a little bit earlier in the day on Tuesday so that it gives the people a chance to write back to your mood boards. So again, it doesn't have to be a curated specific idea. Like say you're doing cupcakes, it doesn't have to be all about cupcakes. It can just be a dump, an ideas dump where you're maybe putting cupcakes and cakes and muffins and different pastries because you know you want to do something that is involving baking. Okay. So that's your discussion. This is worth 10 points and it's due August 2nd, at 11:59 p.m. Okay, and then we will talk about your food styling photo shoot. Okay, this is what you have to do this week. So essentially your editorial versus commercial quiz is due tonight and your discussion post is due tonight. So the rest of the week you'll have to focus on your food styling photo shoot. You're going to read chapters 10 and 11, which is page 152 through 176. So our objective this week is to create a single image using food of your choosing, okay? Images should demonstrate intentional use of food, color, and composition. So you should know what composition means now and what we're talking about when we say color, because you guys did your visual hierarchy projects with your groups last week. So I want you guys to be able to use that document you created with your groups to be able to refer back to it and make sure that you're kind of keeping in consideration all those theories and those principles that we spent so much time on. So you guys are going to photograph one dish of your choosing in a set that you've created, designed, and constructed. The dish can be hot or cold. Single ingredients, such as one piece of fruit, does not constitute a dish. You have to make a plate of food with multiple ingredients. So the dish has to be comprised of at least 2 ingredients. So if you like get a mango and cut up a mango and put it on a pretty plate, that's not a dish. It has to be 2 ingredients. So maybe it's mango and yogurt dip, or maybe it's hummus and vegetables. It can be as simple as that, or it can be as complicated as like an acai bowl, or maybe you're making pasta or sushi, right? But you got to make sure that you have at least 2 ingredients, okay? The hero object must be edible or at least appear edible, right? So it needs to be some sort of a food dish. Beverages, props, or surfaces can or need to be used, but the food needs to be at the top of visual hierarchy. So I do want you guys to incorporate a surface, a prop, maybe it's crumbs, maybe it's a spice, maybe it's a beautiful tablecloth, maybe it's a wood cutting board that you're putting your plate on, right? Making sure that you are incorporating props and surfaces with it along with your dish. Your dish, once again, must be comprised of at least 2 ingredients, okay? Very important. Prop and surface elements must be used in addition to a hero dish. Again, as every week, just one file with the entire assignment, hopefully in a PDF format, usually works the best, is the only thing that needs to be submitted. So, you know, obviously within that one file, both the edited and raw images of your pictures need to be submitted, but it's just one file with the full creative deck, okay? Your breakdown here. So your first slide, always gonna be your title page, okay? Your second slide is gonna be the mood board for your concept. You're going to make sure to label the slide, so write mood board on there at least, and make sure that you have at least 6 images. So each week, your mood board should be getting a little bit more elevated, a little bit more complex, more texture, more color, or, you know, picking a specific color palette, I meant to say. And the reason why I have you say at least 6 or put 6 images is just so that we have enough content to be able to tell our story, okay? Slide 3 is going to be the materials used. So everything that goes into the image needs to be listed on this materials page. A description and a picture of every item needs to be placed in here. So let's say you're making cupcakes. You need to have the cupcake, maybe the box of the ingredients that's in there, the milk, the eggs. Maybe you're putting that on a plate and then you're also adding flowers to it. Every single thing that you're putting into your set and into your food needs to be listed here on the materials used, okay? You can either do individual pictures of every item, or you can put everything on a table and put it all together and take one picture of that and then just dissect that from that one picture. Slide 4 is something new that we haven't done before, and that is styling theories used. So you must pick 2 theories, okay? You can use the ones from your document that you did as a group. And you're going to address and explain those theories. So you're going to use 2 theories in your images this week. Maybe you're doing color and contrast and movement, okay? Because you want to create some energy in your images. You're going to list those. You're going to explain what those mean. So you can literally take the definitions out of your group project, put that into this slide, right? And then you're going to make sure that you use them in your image and be able to explain how it was used, okay? So slide 5 is going to be your raw image. You're going to label it clearly. And slide 6 is going to be your edited image. Simple. Okay. Now I'm going to show you guys some examples. And then I'm going to tell you I'm going to kind of walk you through the examples. And I'm also going to tell you what I liked and what I disliked about it. So that's kind of important for you guys to pay attention to. First one is obviously an acai bowl, right? So love the spacing in the mood board. The pictures are interesting, but I will say they lost points on what? On basically putting the exact same image 8 times, right? There's small differences and small details when it comes to the bowls of acai, but overall the image is the same. So your mood boards need to be elevated. They need to be more complex. If you submit a mood board with 6 images of cupcakes or 6 images of hot dogs or whatever dish you're doing for your project, you're going to lose points. I need color palette. I need texture. I need photography inspiration. I need lighting inspiration. I need surface ideas. I need prop ideas, right? It needs to be a really well curated mood board on the whole concept, not just the dish. Something like this is great for you personally to have on hand. So you don't forget to maybe spread out the fruit like that, or maybe to add some flowers into your dish, or maybe you want to incorporate the napkin with the plate and the utensil, right? Maybe you like that, like layering, that setup. This is great for you to have on hand to look at, but this is not a mood board that you're presenting to a client. So you guys need to remember that when we do these decks, it's like you are presenting your ideas to a client, right? Not a teacher or not your classmates. So if I presented this to a client that had maybe an acai product, they say, yeah, that's great. Like, we love these ideas of how to present it, but what's the story here? What's the concept? What's the mood? Who are we reaching? This doesn't have a clear target audience. This doesn't have a clear mood. It looks bright, but some of them are, a little more intricate than the others. Some look more DIY, some look more, professional or more artsy or more editorial, based. So really important that our mood board is really telling the story of our idea and our concept. Okay, so next needs to be kind of next level. Here's our original picture, which is great. I love how thoughtful and intricate the laying out of the props are. That she took the time to kind of create this reef around her bowl. I think that really helps with the movement and kind of adding to that line of where we're always focusing on our acai bowl. Another thing is important of that she, oftentimes we say texture within texture is not good. Obviously it gets a little bit hazy there, but around here it looks really nice. And the really important thing about this bowl is that it has that white outline. So that's really keeping our eye focused on our hero object. We understand very clearly that this is our hero, even though there's a lot going on. Also, creating this kind of reef-like thing around of our plate really keeps us kind of focused in the center of the image. And then we have our edited image where it was brightened, the saturation's up, the acai bowl really pops off of that page, even more so than here, I believe. And it really is attractive. So they did a really great job with the execution and the editing and the image itself. There's just other things that they needed to work on. Okay. Let's look at the next one. Sorry. Okay. Next one is here. Okay. Again, this mood board is better than the last, but still I understand that they're doing, donuts with some sort of fruit. It's really not telling me the story or the vibe or the mood that they're trying to execute. I'm kind of getting a color palette, which is nice. I'm getting some texture, but I think it could be one level above this, right? Materials used. This is a place where the student lost some points. Okay, so from here, I'm thinking there's going to be some sort of pastry or donut involved. But on the materials used, I don't see any sort of donut mentioned. I don't have any surface or prop mentioned. I'm just essentially from this slide, I'm seeing that maybe she's sprinkling red sprinkles and powdered sugar on some strawberries, and that's her dish. Okay. Styling theories, tangents and rule of thirds, two great theories. And you should be able to explain that when you show your images. Okay, and here's the raw image. So there was a donut involved in this, so that should be listed on your materials page. Also, the surface area that you chose to shoot on should also be listed on your materials page. Okay, and here's the edited image. So a nice crop, brightened it up. This is a beautiful picture. Super simple. Bought a donut, added some strawberries, sprinkled it with powdered sugar. You have your dish, right? More than 2 ingredients. So you can go as simple as something like this to something as more extreme as like an acai bowl. Let's look at this next one. Okay, so when I talk about an elevated mood board, this is kind of what I'm talking about, right? We have color palette, we have flower direction, we have movement, right? We're kind of seeing how we're going to place that frosting on that cupcake. We have, texture and taste. Like I'm feeling that this is going to be some sort of a lemon inspired cupcake or muffin. So very beautiful mood board. The way it's layered, the way we add some text on there, definitely elevated. And you can see a big contrast from something like this to something like this. Okay. Again, another great material slide. Everything that is used is listed here. Okay. The ingredients plus the cake that she needed, the box of a cake that she used, her test batch, her frosting, her decorating set, food coloring that she used, color and frosting, pan, flowers, platform, everything that she used in the image is listed here, right? Styling theories, this is one place where she lost a little bit of points. When we talk about styling theories and principles, these are all the things that lead or help us achieve visual hierarchy. So visual hierarchy is not something that should be listed on your styling theories slide, okay? Everything like color and contrast, movement, scale, all of those things that you guys studied last week, tangents, composition, that all leads to us achieving visual hierarchy. So remember that you should not be putting visual hierarchy here on this slide of styling theories. It should be different principles that help us achieve visual hierarchy, okay? Here's our raw image, which is gorgeous, beautiful. I love it raw, but I even love it even more here edited because that pops even more, okay? See, the surface areas are very similar to each other, but they work because we have this really beautiful red contrast that is continuing to draw our eyes into our hero object, okay? A lot of natural and organic movement with the frosting, the way it was laid out, and with the way that our props are lined out, and the circular pattern or the circular shape of the plate or the platform. Beautiful, right? Really well executed. Here's the last one, last example. Okay, another elevated mood board. By the way that this is so prominently displayed, I'm thinking it's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? There is some lighting inspiration, which is great, some stacking inspiration and layering. I love this natural organic, like flowing over of the ingredients. Again, photography inspiration, so some movement inspiration, a very well executed mood board. Another great materials page. Okay, we're putting in we're incorporating our surface, our backdrop, all the ingredients, some mason jars as props, and some utensils. Styling theories, she's using the rule of thirds and color. Great. And we have our raw image. Beautiful. Okay, everything that's listed on the material page is in the image. Beautiful lighting, beautiful placement of the object, a great crop. Okay, so it could be as simple as a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and then she's elevated it by adding in the ingredients and really adding her own touch to the image. Great, awesome. So hopefully that was helpful to kind of visualize your food styling shoot. You guys have that there to look at and refer back to. Just to make sure that we're all on the same page, you are completing by 8/2, which is August 2nd and 11:59 p.m. your editorial versus commercial quiz, and also your food styling board and ideas. Those are the two things that are due on Tuesday at 11:59. And then your food styling photo shoot is obviously due the next week, where we'll see each other on Zoom. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'll be available by my phone all day tomorrow. I just have that a very important doctor's appointment for my pregnancy. So thank you guys for being so flexible. And I really appreciate you guys, for being okay with that. I will post, as soon as I'm done with this video, I'll post the video here at the top of the notes. So you guys will be able to access that whenever you'd like. Thank you guys. Have a great week.